Hi, and over the last while, I've been creating some original characters. You may know SpaceTiger, Simon, so on and so forth. But I was thinking, what if my original characters were humans? And this is that video. So let's get into it. Woo! Keith rubbed the scratch on his neck, which came from one of his regular foes, a large shapeshifter called Dracon. He ducked, weaving between the multiple tendrils coming from his new form, and grabbed a knife carved out of Beskar, which he got from one of his travels, jumping onto Dracon's tail and driving the knife into the tail, making Dracon writhe and turn back into a human. He looked at Keith and scowled. "You, I'll be back, SpaceTiger. If that's even your real name." Right, Keith yelled as he saw Draken run into the distance, not bothering the chase. He picked the knife from the floor, sheathed it, and put it back on his belt. He removed the mask that was disguising his true identity. Across from him sat Professor Ben Grapevine, legs crossed, watching him closer. "Come off it," Keith said through laughter. "It's not my fault you let the Syndicate escape," Grapevine told Keith. "Fine, I let them get away. So now we have to deal with them even more." "What do you mean?" Nothing. They just have more allies now." Keith spat on the ground. "So, where are we going?" Keith asked. One of their allies, SpaceTiger, mimed the direction. SpaceTiger nodded, put on his mask, and followed SpaceTiger's lead. After a few minutes of hopping around, they made it to a large warehouse, which was filled with contraptions, which wasn't there the last time they were there. Sat in the centre, orchestrating it all, was a man in the lab coat. They knocked on the window, trying to crack the glass, but it didn't work. It only gave away their position. Through the speakers, they could hear a cold voice. "These people? Fine. We can easily deal with them. They won't stop me making my ultimate creation." SpaceTiger made his way down and grabbed a bow and arrow from the wall, which was hanging there for seemingly no reason. Then he aimed and took a shot, ricocheting off a large metal spear, creating a dent. The man in the lab coat stared at SpaceTiger and SpaceTiger. The man in the lab coat who was staring at SpaceTiger and SpaceTiger was approaching from behind. SpaceTiger grabbed a sheet of A4 and scribbled a grappling device, then pulled the drawing out of the paper and used it to get closer to the man in the lab coat. "Pickles. Here we meet again." SpaceTiger scowled. "SpaceTiger," Pickles grimaced. Then rifle shots rattled the building as multiple people shot at the two, SpaceTiger and SpaceTiger. SpaceTiger started scribbling on a piece of paper until pulling out a turret around 3 foot tall. It shot large bullets which seemingly stunned anyone it came into contact with. The bullets still came in droves, however, and Keith shielded SpaceTiger as he drew a shield, then passed it to SpaceTiger. The bullets fell to the ground as they got closer to Pickles. SpaceTiger gave SpaceTiger the shield, leaped upwards and hung on a support beam, then let go with one hand, grabbed his knife and put it in between his teeth. He started swinging and while letting go, grabbed the knife and hit the ground behind Pickles. The knife sliced through the air, whistling until it stopped. Where am I? Sat right there was a man, probably around 20. He was in a space suit, his face covered and everything, and he seemed to have just appeared out of nowhere and miraculously saved Pickles' life, which SpaceTiger wasn't that happy about. He immediately started hacking at the man's suit, the knife constantly ricocheting off the armour until it finally made some sort of dent, pierced through the helmet part. could see some sort of broken face, scarred after many, many years of falling and damage, or whatever this man had gone through. But he didn't seem like the nicest person, this man who had stumbled into their world, as he started gagging as soon as he came through, looking around him and yelling such things as, "You're all like the others. Why has he said, I guess I have to kill you guys. Yeah, I need to get out and I'll kill you guys. Just to do it." Then the man looked down at his hand, seemingly intrigued by it, and then a bunch of flames sprouted from it. The man was in shock, stumbled back a bit, and then slowly levitated up, such as proving that gravity didn't seem to affect him. He looked over at the duo, and his hand got even more enwrapped in flames. He looked down at it and he laughed, a menacing, evil laugh. "I will kill you all, and then finally I can take my revenge on SpaceTiger," he said. Everyone in the room was silent. And then SpaceTiger spoke. He yelled, "No, you won't. I will do anything to stop you." He leapt up and he pulled his knife, unsheathed it and cracked the helmet. He stumbled back and fell over. SpaceTiger had delivered some sort of blow. It wasn't the final one, to be sure, because the man in the spacesuit got up again, wiped some sort of blood from his eye, and then created even more fire, and this time shooting it out of his hand like some sort of missile, hitting the walls of the building, and the building started to catch on fire. He looked at Pickles and said, "Pickles, get out of here. I'll help you with whatever you're trying to achieve, and I think I know what you're trying to do." And all of a sudden, they were flung back into a massive battle. Fire was being sprayed everywhere, and it was complete chaos. SpaceTiger was able to get up close. He had his knife drawn, yet again, and his bow slung across his back. He held the knife, ready to stab, when all of a sudden, something stopped him. He couldn't move his arm, despite how hard he tried. And then he looked at the arm itself and saw some purple energy swirling around it. He looked up and he saw Grapevine laughing to himself. Not in a menacing way, no. "SpaceTiger," Grapevine said, "I don't think you should be doing some killing. I mean, we've always wanted a good challenge, haven't we? Let us all have a crack at this man. He won't be that hard to beat, will he?" SpaceTiger smirked and agreed. Then Grapevine came down, using his telekinesis to try and pull off the man's space helmet. As he concentrated more and more, the helmet came looser and looser, but it never seemed to come off, almost as if it was tightened onto him by some sort of magical, mystical energy or something. Something no one could explain. Something from another reality, even. Grapevine looked shocked. He looked around, panicking, and then he noticed it in the distance, looking at him. He also flung his hand back now all of a sudden, letting go of the helmet of the master mind. It immediately swung back, hit the person in the face, and then they fell to the floor. Unconscious at least. Dead at worst. And who the person was, we'll never really know. Until they woke up and they yelled.
You've tried to beat me before, haven't you, SpaceTiger?
SpaceTiger was startled. He jumped back and he said, "No, it can't be."
Yes, it can be. If you don't remember me, my name is R. Elm.
And there he was, the leader of this syndicate they were trying to stop at the very moment, face to face with them in the flesh. But he was obviously not here for them. He was there for their mysterious visitor, who by now had already conjured some more flames and was sending them their way. Luckily, SpaceTiger had enough time to draw some sort of flame retardant item, maybe a shield or something. And then, yet again, with his hand, more flames shot out at them. SpaceTiger yet again looked down at his paper and started scribbling away, and this time created a small, little, kind of robotic thing that would start to run towards the spaceman to try and hold him off for a few seconds. By the time they reached there, it worked. The robot had held off the spaceman for long enough for them to get to Mr. R. Elm. And Mr. R. Elm was not happy with that.
You want to beat me? You want to kill me, do you? Well, 1v1 me, SpaceTiger.
As SpaceTiger made his way up to fight the said maniac in charge of this location, his teammates were down dealing with Piggles, who had regained his footing and was starting to equip some sort of armour. Like, it was very heavy to wear on him, but he didn't mind because it was strong enough to defeat both of them at once. SpaceTiger decided to stop his advance towards our realm to help his friends, ducked down, ran around, and finally made it behind Piggles, who had a massive suit of armour, almost shaped like a pig, as a reference to his name, of course. He came closer, and he grabbed onto the back of the armour. He started to fly up, started to shake around, and he couldn't hold on for that much longer. SpaceTiger let go, and Piggles was free. He started raining terror from above, shooting down these odd lasers made of green goo. It endlessly splattered down, hitting everyone, and started to vaporize them very slowly. It often hit one of his own cronies, but he didn't care. As long as he hit one of his targets, he wouldn't care how many lives were lost. He laughed an evil, maniacal laugh, and he shot a few more bullets down. One of them hit Grapevine. Grapevine fell over, coughing up blood. Pickles laughed, and there was nothing they could do. Grapevine was dying. Luckily, we had SpaceTiger on the team. SpaceTiger was able to create some sort of new kind of weapon out of paper that would be able to cut it off where the corrosion was starting and hopefully stop the spreading from there. The knife came down and cut off Grapevine's arm. Luckily, the spreading stopped there and the corrosion didn't continue. But that was not a good thing. No, not by any means. Because while this all was happening, our elm was charging something up. Something evil. He grunted as he held up a box. On it was the words inscribed, "Kyatsja." He opened the box slowly, peering inside, and then he saw it. Reached down and grabbed the gloves. It was his gloves, meant to mimic the power of a Kyatsja, the name of the leaders or owners of a world. He picked it up and he started using it. Things started to float. Lots of things. Weapons, knives, spray cans, anything he could look at started to float. And that included SpaceTiger. As he was floating, he couldn't really do much. He wasn't used to this zero gravity, unlike that spaceman. Instead, he just sat there, rolling sometimes to see if he could evade the multiple bullets coming from Pickles. Luckily, he was fine, as, well, the Kyatsja only had enough power to hold them for a long enough time. And that's even not mimicking the power with a fake kind of technology. So the technology failed about halfway through, and SpaceTiger was sent tumbling to the ground along with around 100 other objects and people. He eventually landed next to Pickles on the ground, who was out without his suit, as half of it had been taken up with the beam, which apparently the Arva Elm couldn't control. He prepared the gloves, Pickles did, to fire at SpaceTiger and to kill him off permanently. As he charged up the beam to fire, SpaceTiger grabbed the arm and pointed it directly at Arva Elm. The blast shot off, not much that Pickles could do, landing directly in the face of Arva Elm, and slow, agonizing screams as he slowly disintegrated. Hope you enjoyed that one. It took like 3 months to make or something. For the final one part, like from SpaceTiger upwards, I kind of just made the story as I went along because I couldn't be bothered. Plus, I'm tired. So, yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. And if you're wondering, no, that is not the end of Arva Elm or this storyline or SpaceTiger. I will be releasing a lore video, like one where I just kind of explain the lore in a bit, maybe in a month, maybe during December. I don't really know yet. I'll figure that out when it gets to it. But yeah, hope you enjoy this video and see ya.